slide, Emmanuel, if we can, just to say who we are. So Chamber Customs, we could consider ourselves experts in how complex customs and international import and export is. Our DNA and our chamber network across the UK goes back to over 100 years of issuing certificates of origin, helping businesses to trade, providing advice through our experts across the UK network to businesses in the local area. And actually, that's one of the points of difference we bring to the party. We've got lots of people across the nation who can help and have knowledge about international trade and how it's done. And also, we offer systems that allow our customers to be compliant and efficient in the submission of their customs declarations and the processing of those declarations and transit documents. And actually, whether you're a very large firm or a very small firm, we help businesses of all scales and sizes to overcome the challenge of trading internationally, and also importantly, to identify the opportunities that exist to reduce the cost of trading across borders. So I'll say no more about what we do. You'll hear about what we do, and I hope we demonstrate through this session today the knowledge that we have and expertise that we can deploy on this big change from Chief to CDS, which is about 21 days from now. So moving on, I'm going to just briefly tell you about the agenda. So Emmanuel and Mitch particularly going to talk about the closure of Chief, the planning around that closure, and the core journey that you need to make. So your business is planning. If you haven't already started, then it may not be too late, but it's almost too late. But there are some things that you can do, need to do, and can check that you've done. And then Emmanuel and Mitch will talk about how we can support that move from one system to the other. And to repeat, the Q&A function's active. If you have questions, please put them there and we'll get to as many as we can. Some of you, a few have already submitted some questions to us, which we'll come to at the end as well in the Q&A. So I think I'm turning to Mitch first, to hand over to you, Mitch, and to let you kick off on the slide deck, which also will be shared with you at the end of the session, so you can concentrate on what these chaps are saying rather than taking notes. Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, Liam. Okay, thank you everybody for joining. So I'm going to be covering some of the first few slides relating to why Chief is closing and why CDS is the next system that's coming into play. So HMRC are closing Chief or retiring Chief in a phased approach. So I'm sure most of you will already be aware of the two stages. However, the 30th of September is the final day for import declarations to be submitted via Chief. After that, all import and export declarations will need to be submitted via the Customs Declaration Service. So then the next phased approach is the 31st of March in 2023, when export declarations will also be phased out of Chief, and Chief will finally close its doors to everything on the 31st of March, and therefore all imports and export declarations will have to be submitted via the CDS system. So I think one of the key messages there is that, you know, declarants or anybody out there that's going to be using CDS, whether it's a declarant, a trader, needs to be prepared for the move across to CDS, and we need to be preparing for that now. I think one of the things that we hear, one of the points we hear a lot is, do we think that the 30th of September is achievable? I think that's one of the points we kind of hear from our traders and businesses. And it'd be really nice to hear from you all if you think that is an achievable date. So feel free to put your comments in the chat there. Emmanuel, what's your comments on the 30th of September? And do we know, or have we heard of anything from HMRC where there could be a potential delay on that, or is it firmly confirmed?
It's a very interesting point, Mitch. It's HMRC is absolutely adamant that the 30th of September is not negotiable, it's not movable. There will not be any further delays. Now, CDS is a program that is incredibly late. We did have that little thing, Brexit, happening in between. It's important to remember that CDS was commissioned before the UK exit from the EU. And so it is no real wonder that there were delays on delays. But the message that we hear constantly in all the policy groups, in all the official messages from HMRC is that there is no movement. So this might be the real deal, and that, you know, after from the 1st of October, we might be using CDS for imports exclusively.
Yeah, it's a good point, Emmanuel. It's been a long time in the coming, and it's understandable, isn't it, that businesses might think that a deadline set by a government department might slip, given how many have. But certainly it appears, as you say, that not only the CDS team, but the people that I speak to are resolute that this deadline will be met.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, we shall move forward. So why Chief is closing? So I'm sure many of you have heard the terminology of Chief and either used Chief yourselves or have heard your agent or your customs agent using Chief over the years, and it has served the UK well, but it's nearly 30 years old. I have a birthday in 3 weeks, and I'm not going to say how old I am, but Chief is slightly, ever so slightly older than me. So HMRC's IT systems need to be fit for future, and this is one of the main reasons why Chief is retiring, and we're moving over to CDS. And some of the reasons here on the slides explain what CDS has to offer in terms of the resilience and the reliability of this function. And I think as well, it's worth mentioning about the flexibility of CDS, and it does have the flexibility to grow. And I think Chief was a system in place 30 years ago, but over the years, with the increase of international trade, along with obviously post-Brexit and all of the EU material having to have an import and export declaration submitted, it deems that we need to move across to CDS in order to cope with that volume.
Worth remembering as well, Mitch, just reminding people that Northern Ireland has been using CDS since Brexit Day, hasn't it? Yeah. That's been part of their fix. So, and that's why the integration, the commonality, if you like, in compliance with the Union Customs Code of the EU is still relevant.
That's right. That's right. So I think there's many reasons as to why CDS is being rolled out, but it's really important that we have this phased approach, moving over from imports first and then to exports. One thing also to mention here as well is that one of the differences between the two systems is relating to the documentation. So with the Chief system, we have the functionality to print and to download a C88, a SAD form, an EAD document. However, moving across to CDS, there is no actual physical C88 or SAD copy that we need to print, and a lot of the questions we hear are well relating to this is why is this the case? Why have CDS done this? Emmanuel, I don't know if you know any more information on that, but what's the reason for moving away from the paper trade?
Well, Mitch, I'll tell you something. I don't know if our attendees know, but Chief was supposed to be paperless too, but that didn't happen. So the idea is, like, in theory, you don't need paper as long as there is a movement reference number that covers your import or your export. That's all you need. However, we do know that in the trade, the extended supply chain, including the hauliers and the people who handle the physical goods, do like the accompanying documents. So the Association of Freight Software Suppliers has actually come together, and they produced a template that all the major software providers have implemented. And what I found quite interesting is that HMRC is basically now considering using that form as, they're kind of endorsing that form. So although there is no C88, there are no longer all the E2, H2, all the codes that we've grown so familiar with, they don't exist anymore. We will have a PDF printout of the declaration with a status at the bottom. And it's in line with the times. You know, we don't really need paper anymore, really.
Yeah, but people could save that PDF, couldn't they? And I know there is a question there on the Q&A from Nicola Robinson about the C79, C79s and C88s and so on, and I think that addresses it. It's supposed to be a purely digital system, isn't it? But people do take comfort in having the files that prove the goods, for example, did leave the country and did actually export the UK when they are using Incoterms like Ex-Works and the like. So it's good that there is potentially an alternative available. So moving on.
Thank you. So migrating over to CDS is going to require planning, from a customs agent perspective, but also from a business perspective as well. So if you're self-representing, then you'll have to have CDS ready software. It's really important that you're liaising with your customs agent, ensuring that they're ready for the move over to CDS. Also, in terms of if you're using a CDS ready agent, and if you're delegating to an agent, ensuring that they have the software and the systems in place for when we transition over to CDS. And I think Emmanuel is going to cover in a bit more detail the instruction side, so making sure that we are all aware of the additions, so the information that we need additionally from using CDS from when we use Chief, because there is variations in what's required. And so there's a few points to consider there in terms of the timing. It's 21 days now until we move the imports over to CDS, but also the systems changes and the communication and also authorizations, which we're going to cover as we move forward. So before I hand over to Emmanuel, just want to briefly go through the 5 steps. And this is something that Emmanuel will go into more detail. But this is the kind of platform for the migration journey. And there's 5 key stages here that a trader may need to take to prepare for CDS. And it starts with registering for your government gateway and also ensuring that you have a GB EORI number. Having the access to CDS, whether it's yourselves self-representing, or whether you're using a customs agent, and then making sure that we have the authorizations in place and you understand the data requirements within CDS of what's required. Also, the payment, so the method of payment, as this does vary slightly from Chief, there is some variations in there which we'll explain to you, and also the actual going live and submitting the declarations in CDS. It does mention their tests in the training system. However, this really only kind of is important for declarants and customs agents. So moving forward, I'm going to hand over to Emmanuel, who's going to go through the steps here in more detail for you. Thanks, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Mitch. So I can see there's a flurry of questions, which we'll try to get through as we go, but some of these we'll answer as we cover the slides ahead. So the first part, I hope that by this point, most of the people on today's session will already have their ID. Now, it is very important that you're able to log on to using your government gateway ID and that you have an EORI number already. I think most of you will have one. In the run-up to Brexit, HMRC issued automatically EORI numbers for the majority of businesses. If you don't have an EORI number, you will need one to do import or export transactions in a commercial environment. So that's really, really important. If you don't have an EORI and you need a system, there is an EORI team that can assist you. If that's your case, let us know in the chat. We'll see how we can assist you. So that is a prerequisite. So EORI number and government gateway. Now, a word of caution on the government gateway: it is your key to access your CDS financial page. It's quite easy to get one if you don't have one, but it is likely that someone in your organization already has it. So you might want to talk to the people who are currently filing your VAT return, because it's likely that they already have a government gateway that they can access, they can use to access your company information. Now, how do you get access to CDS? So as a trader, you get access to this really nicely designed portal, which I'll be showing you in a few minutes. If you haven't registered yet for access to CDS, you can do it. There's a link in this presentation, and it's very easy. If you do government, search for gov.uk, register for CDS, you will sign in with your government gateway, and you will need to provide some information to register for this service. So CDS is only one of the services available on Government Gateway. So you might have done the very same process for VAT, corporation tax, payroll, any of the services available through that. You will need your company's UTR. That might be quite delicate information to find, but again, your accountant or whoever is running your finance department should have access to that information. Now, I saw a question in the chat saying, how long does it take? Do we still have time? The answer is yes, you still have time, because HMRC said that unless there are problems with your registration or something that has gone wrong in the past, you should get instant access to CDS, with 95% of the application resulting in access after 2 hours. So yes, you still have time, and you still have time to do all the setup you need to do. But act today in case there are issues, or you have a complex group structure and you have multiple URIs. That's where we're seeing some small delays.
Yeah. Emmanuel, can I just
Yes.
interject just briefly, because you're talking about all these, the UTRs and the IORI number and so on, but Lisa is asking, is the ID number the same as our IORI number? So this is about when you first log into the government gateway, before you've typed in the UTR and the IORI, that's a different login, isn't it? And just to express that. So typically, again,
yeah.
your finance team who are doing their tax returns will have the government gateway login. It's that login that you need to be able to utilize before you're going to plug in the IORI and sign up for CDS.
Thank you. That's really important, Liam. And what we've seen is that a few people, so a government gateway is a different ID. You're absolutely right, Liam, and is normally linked to your email address. And what tends to happen in a large company, like we have at ChamberCustoms, there is a master login, and normally that is with the finance team because it's to do with corporation tax. And then within that, your finance team can give you an access. So you can create various logins. So we don't share password, of course. You can create various logins inside the government gateway to give different people access to different things. And then from there, you register the CDS. Thank you. It's a very important point. Once you manage to get through that process, you actually get access to the CDS financial dashboard. And you can see a lot of things from there, including, and I saw a question before, the C79 import VAT certificate for your VAT imports. I'll be showing you everything that you can see through the financial portal, but it's the one place that you need to get to. You will also be able to access a really nice new function, which is a secure file upload. So whenever NCH, National Clearing Hub, or Border Force require some documentation from you, you can actually upload that in a secure way through the service, rather than sending unencrypted open emails, which are no longer very secure. Just to make a point, registering to the CDS financial dashboard doesn't give you access to submit a declaration. That is a different thing. To submit declarations, you need to be using software. You need to be using, if you want to do it yourself, or you need to be an agent. All you have to do as a declarant, as a trader, as an importer or an exporter, is to register for the financial dashboard. That basically activates everything that needs activating, and we'll cover more of that. Now, the other thing that Mitch mentioned is you have to get ready for the information that you need to provide. And you might have heard this before. CDS asks for more information. It's about 20% more information. There's 20% more data points. We no longer talk about boxes. Boxes are to do with a physical form that you fill in. That's gone. We talk about data elements. So get used to that language. The data elements in CDS are grouped in 8 blocks, and they kind of broadly answers the questions that you can see on the screen. Basically, trying to understand everything that happens to the goods when they cross the border. Remember that the customs declaration follow the physical movement of the goods. Now, the questions correspond to the groups, and this is everything that we want to know, from where the goods are coming from, where they're going to, why are they moving? Is it sales or is it a return? What are the parties involved? We have a lot more space for that supply chain. We can talk of the extended supply chain. We can discuss buyers and sellers, importers and exporters, manufacturers, consolidators. We have a lot more variety here in terms of parties. We provide delivery terms now on the declaration, whether it's Liam mentioned before, if you're doing ex-works, if you're doing FCA, if you're doing DAP, that needs declaring on the custom declaration. We talk about all the standard bits that we always done on Chief. And we talk about relationship between the parties. So there's quite a lot more, and you need to get to grips with that. Now, I hope you can appreciate that in the 60 minutes we have today, we cannot cover every single data element. And if you get me started on this point, I could talk for 4 days in a row. So I won't go there. And please, my colleagues, stop me if I go too far. What I will tell you is that we have on this presentation 2 slides just showing you the highlights, the delta, if you like, of what's new in CDS, so you can prepare. If you're a trader, you need to be able to provide this information to your agent. And if you're an agent, you need to be able to ask your trader for this information. Otherwise, you won't be able to fill in the declaration. And let's not forget that every single customs declaration is somehow a tax return that you're doing, because you're informing HMRC of how much duty, how much VAT you want to pay, or you're liable to pay on those imports. So for export, the additional information that we find today is carrier information. So we have to declare who is carrying the goods, whether that is the freight forwarder or whether it's going on a deep sea vessel. We have to declare the name and the address of that party that physically moves the goods away. We also have to declare the transport charges method of payment. Sometimes, most of the times, they follow the Incoterms. It could be not prepaid, part of the, or they could be part of the invoice, but you have to declare that. We have to provide basic information about the route. The minimum would be start and end point, but we might want to declare the rest of it. Gross mass has now become a mandatory piece, and you've got to be prepared to provide that information. Remember, we can't really guess this information. It has to be accurate. Very importantly, if you hold any authorization, and the standard one that most of you will have is a deferment account, you will have to declare that. So if you need to actually go and check on your authorization letter from HMRC, because there will be a long reference number that your agent will need, or you will need to put on your declaration. So we're looking at deferment account, comprehensive guarantee, inward processing, outward processing, end use, temporary admission, customs warehouse, all of the special procedures. If you have any of them, your agent will need the CDS long reference number. Easier things such as nature of transaction, you need to make sure that this is clear, because now we have to declare whether you're doing a sale or whether you're doing something else. Now, at import, we are looking pretty much at the same thing. Just remember, we will need to inform the right parties of your VAT number if you intend to take advantage of postpone VAT accounting, which is freely available to all. The other point to really look after is to understand the tariff. There is a brand new volume 3, the Mechanic's Guide to How to Fill in a Customs Declaration. There is a brand new volume 3 for CDS. I really invite you to take time to read it and study it. If you're doing your declarations, you will need to invest some time. There is training available that will explain to you what to cover. If you're using an agent, you perhaps don't need to do all of the work yourself, but it's still important that you're familiar with the steps. So this is really a good time to evaluate whether you want to upskill your own staff or you want to delegate the work to somebody who is out there and is accredited to do so. If you decide to have a look at this yourself, there is a lot of guidance out there. HMRC has done, I have to say, a very good job of creating really comprehensive guidance. There is a lot of it, and you have to learn to navigate it. So this is a list of hot links that you might want to follow to actually have a look at the key parts. But you might want to start from volume 3, CDS imports, volume 3, CDS exports. That's how we like to do it, and then navigate through it step by step. There is a correlation matrix, which I really invite you to have a look at on what used to be CPC, Customs Procedure Codes. We only talk about customs procedure because the approach today is more of a mix and match. So you have a main procedure, and you can pick up codes that go with it. So it's, you know, take your time to have a look. Your agent, if using an agent, will need to ask you questions, so be prepared to answer them. So I mentioned that you need those reference numbers, and that's because there is a requirement on CDS to declare every single time what authorizations you're using. So why is that? We really asked ourselves, why is that happening? Why do we have to tell CDS? It's linked with the fact that you could have multiple parties involved. So if you're using a deferment account, the easiest example, are you using your deferment account, your holding company's deferment account, or your agent's deferment account? And that is where CDS gives us the flexibility. But with that flexibility, we have to pay the price of adding you know, the reference number for the authorization every single time. There are a total of 54 authorization codes, but you will know what authorizations you hold because you will have letters from HMRC. Now, Mitch, you touched on this point before on methods of payment. Did you have any method of payment in mind that that you are sad to see going from this world?
Well, I'd say FAS would be one of them. But having the cash account is much more simpler, much more effective, and it's quicker. I think FAS caused quite a few delays over the years with the actual manual intervention of having to raise a reference. But having that visible cash account there within your government gateway is a great replacement for that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And frankly, you mentioned that. Let's talk about the cash account. It's really my favorite introduction with CDS. The main difference with FAS is like FAS, the flexible accounting system was linked to your agent's badge.
Yeah. So
as a trader, you would have to lodge some money on your agent's badge in a specific port against a specific declaration. And the problem we always had was that if there was a discrepancy in the payment because of exchange rate, then the payment would bounce. You would need to make another payment. To withdraw money from that account required a long and convoluted process. A cash account now is available for free automatically when you register on the CDS dashboard, and it's basically yours. It's attached to your trader's EORI. It's your own prepaid card. As a trader, you put money on. You can do that instantly with standard faster payments from your bank. If you put too much money on, you can withdraw it. If you want to keep some money there, it's great. And it doesn't cost you anything. And then you can get your agent to use it.
Yeah, and we did have a couple of questions on this on the chat as well, where someone actually uses PVA for VAT, but they always just pay the duty up front. They're not delaying the duty, and I think there's often a misunderstanding that this cash account is going to provide HMRC with ready access to your money, or you need to put money there and leave it in deposit. In fact, you don't. You need to put money there at the point at which it's required. And as you say, many of you will be paying handling fees to your agents to pass on fast payments and the like. You can reduce the cost of that by just using the cash account. So our big recommendation is get the cash account, utilize the cash account, and appoint your agent to be using your cash account to cover any duty that might be due.
Absolutely, Liam. It's so important, and it's your money. You can withdraw money from that account just as easily as you can put it on there. Nobody else can touch it unless, of course, you authorize your agent to use your cash account to pay the duty on your declaration. Now, the other thing that there's a lot of confusion about out there is what happens with my duty deferment. Most of you will have a duty deferment account already on Chief. That duty deferment account is still valid. There's only one small administrative change that you have to do. You have to set up a new direct debit, because anything that you any declarations that you do on CDS using your deferment account, the money, that duty will be collected differently. So you need to set up a new direct debit. It takes probably 2 minutes. We have instructions, and we will follow up with this presentation. It's very easy to do. You do it via your CDS financial dashboard. So you set up the new direct debit, you give authority to the parties you want to authorize, and you're done. Cash account automatically there. You just need to give access to the cash account to any party that you want authorizing.
And Emmanuel, can you just explain just very briefly how you do that? What is the information you provide to the other parties that are going to utilize your accounts? Because we've got a few questions on exactly what is that information, ID or data? How do you do it?
What about if I show you? It might be easier. We have a slide coming up which actually shows you the link that you need to click to do that. So we'll do that in about 30 seconds.
Excellent.
I just wanted to cover the option for immediate payments. This is another thing that you can do. You can actually, through the financial dashboard, you can do an immediate payment. So if you have a one-off transaction, you can actually ask your agent to give you the right reference number, and you can go and pay HMRC directly. That's really useful if if you're an occasional importer and you just need to do a one payment. Personally, this is my own personal biased view, I would rather have a cash account. I would rather use my free available cash account, put the money on there and use that, because I have visibility. I can withdraw money if I pay too much, and I can do a statement. But if you want, you can also do a payment direct. So these are the new payment methods that we have in CDS. Now, Liam, you asked, what do I do? And I hope you can see this on your screens. This is once you sign up to your financial dashboard, this is what you see. So we're going to concentrate on number one, which is the cash account. And you can see up here, the very first link is called Manage Your Account Authorities. So through that link, you can actually give access to somebody else. And Liam, the information that you will need to provide at that point, very simply, is the IORI number of the party that you want to delegate access to. So for example, if a trader wanted to authorize ChamberCustoms to use their deferment account, they would have to use ChamberCustoms IORI in that screen. So they would click on Manage Your Account Authorities and provide the IORI number, decide whether that authority was for a period of time or ongoing, and that's it. It's done, and it's immediate. So if you've done that, happy days. There was a question. I've done that. Am I okay? That's it. You've done everything you needed to do. When you click on cash account, you have the ability to see a statement. I think that's really useful, because then your finance team will be very happy about the ability to reconcile the the duty that you had to pay with the movements on the account. It's cash, it's your money, and you can see how it is there. And you can see that there are two options, the topping up and withdrawing funds. So it's really, really easy. You can also see the MRN will show and the declarant order will show in case you have multiple agents working on your behalf. Very similarly, on the duty deferment account, if you click, you have all the information, you have the balance available, and also there is an information here of how to format the reference number that you need when you make a payment. Now, here's a very nice introduction, finally. If you are using a deferment account and you run up to its limit, you can top it up. So mid-month, you can make an additional payment and top up your deferment account. That was never available before, it is now, and we really welcome that change. Through the CDS financial dashboard, you can also see the guarantee account if you have one, because you know that you can have a guarantee account when you need to provide not cash, not money, but a promise of payment, for example, for special procedure. Again, same logic applies. You can access it from here. And you can see exactly what's been secured against your guarantee account. So that's a whirlwind tour of the financial dashboard. So Mitch, I'm going to give it back to you. I'm happy to answer more questions, but that is really the summary. Make sure that you access that financial dashboard, register, sign up for your direct debit if you have a deferment account, and provide authority to the parties who need to be able to use those accounts on your behalf. And that's it. That's really important stuff. Then look at the instructions with those two Delta information slides.
Absolutely. And we're going to come to the questions you've been putting into the Q&A. We're going to come to as many of those as we can before the end of this session. So Mitch, over to you for the final few slides.
Thank you. I think a lot of this Emmanuel was kindly covered in his slides. However, it's really important just to note again that the Gov UK website for CDS is where you can find the majority of the information to help you with CDS, and some of that on there is the differences between Chief and CDS, and that's a lot of what Emmanuel has covered already, is the variations between that, and also example declarations which are available, which provide guidance on how to correctly complete the data elements. So if you are self-representing and you're doing your own customs declaration in your own in-house software, then that help and support is out there for you as well. And also the guidance is regularly reviewed. So that's another thing to make note of, that if you pick a particular web link and you save it or you print it, please make sure that you are checking the date of the update, because it can change very, very quickly. And we've seen that where we've checked something on 1 week and then the following week we've gone in and there's been an updated date on there where things have changed or procedures have developed. So it's really important to note that. So in supporting the move, HMRC has listened to feedback and they have streamlined the completion of customs declarations. Now, one of the things I want to come to is regarding the waiver document code 999L. And the reason why I come to that is because for those of you that have heard of Chief or have used Chief in previous years, you will have heard of LIC 99. And the question we get quite regularly is LIC 99 the same as 999L? And that's the question. So Emmanuel, I want to just come back to you if I can. And is that the case? Is 99L and LIC 99 the same and comparable, or is it different?
I think that 999L is LIC 99's poor cousin. It's not as powerful as LIC 99. Basically, it's a phased introduction, and it's where LIC 99 was just an override code. Actually, 999L is used when we need to waiver more than one document for the same product. We can only use it if on the tariff it says you can use 999L. So it's not as powerful, but it is very useful because, as you very rightly point out, the tariff is a bit different for CDS. And so we now have to provide a positive statement for every single measure against a product. So if we're looking at coffee, we will have to provide a code to say that is not organic, to provide a code to say that is not waste. And so we will have a lot of not, and they all begin with a Y. In those cases, we should be able to use only one 999L instead of 5 Y codes to say not this, not this, not the other.
Lovely. That makes perfect sense. Okay, we shall move on.
Fantastic.
So in supporting your move, so Chamber Customs, we are CDS ready, and we have been for some time. We've been filing import and export declarations on CDS, whilst we've also dual running alongside Chief. So we've not, completely said, no, we're not using Chief, but in using Chief and then slowly phasing across to CDS, we've been dual running the two systems alongside. So we are CDS ready. If you're self-representing, then please talk to your software provider for their readiness, and also consider technical training for your staff. That's something at Chamber Customs we have available in terms of training and consultancy.
And it's really interesting, Mitch, to discuss in that, how ready is CDS? Because, we're saying, talk to software provider for readiness, but how ready is CDS? Can we already do everything that we want to on CDS?
Well, that's not the case at present for some scenarios. I know recently we have had the function for air inventory. So we now can submit air inventory into CDS, as well as also very recently rolling out the non-EU inventory for pentan and road material. So slowly we're getting there with using all of the CSPs and the service providers. I believe on exports, we're in a position where we can do standard export declarations, but inventory linking is not quite there yet. But we have till March to roll that out.
But for import, we are in a good position. I mean, we can now do everything, and by the end of the month, that should not be a problem. We can already do everything on import,
absolutely.
so that's good. Yeah,
and it's important to state that whilst the deadline for exports is March, actually we can already submit some exports. Most exports actually can already be submitted. So for some businesses, it may be the case that they move as well as the imports on or before the deadline of 30th September, that for some businesses they might also choose that point to simply move their exports onto CDS as well.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a nice segue on to, I guess, the next slide, isn't it?
Absolutely. So in terms of Chamber Customs, what we offer is two customs clearance options. So we have fast track customs clearance, and we also have fully assisted customs clearance. So just to give you a quick breakdown of the two. So in terms of fast track customs clearance, this is more of an automated way of working using one of our portals called Exabler. And it's basically a tool that we use there to upload a spreadsheet of your commodity codes and data to allow fast entry clearance. So this is a fast track way of working, which we can guide you through. Or alternatively, we have fully assisted customs clearance where we do it all for you. So once we have the commercial invoice and the packing list and any supporting documents, we will then file your customs declaration directly to HMRC. So there's two variations there. Emmanuel, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think that this is one option that many traders have chosen, and I can see in the questions that there is some of that. A lot of people can file. Anybody can file a declaration for you. You can do it. You can use an agent, or your freight forwarder can do it. If the declaration is not done correctly, that can result in delays. So one of the choices is to use somebody who knows what to do. Sorry, it's just I just read a question that and I get slightly annoyed because I've worked, as you very well know, my colleagues know this, we work very closely with HMRC, and yes, it is a new system, but it is working. And it is very, very easy to blame the system when you don't know what you're doing. And we unfortunately have seen some of that happening. And I don't think that's fair. There are problems, but it's not fair to always blame the system for the delays.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point to make, and to recognise that a lot of businesses are going through a lot of change right now, and it will take time to just bed this system in. Some like us have been ahead of the curve in getting engaged with the change, and therefore have maybe a bit more knowledge and information, and haven't sort of left it to the last minute, and that's meant that many of our customers are now already trading on CDS and have been for some time. So this isn't an imminent deadline for them. So there are two options there, as Mick says. One is also offers a technical solution that means that actually there's a lot less keying of data and a lot more using the single source of truth that you have already in your system. You've already got commercial invoices. Many of you will have enterprise systems that contain a lot of the data elements that we require, and we can help you to map that data from one system into our system and to make those clearances. I won't labour that point, but if you wanted a demo of that, then please use our website or through your chamber to arrange a demonstration of the fast track system.
Thank you. And just the final point here before I hand back to Liam is just relating to the challenges. And we've noted a few points there in relation to readiness of external parties. We've just touched upon that with regards to are we ready? Are we fully ready to transition to CDS? And for an import perspective, yes, we are. There is some challenges, obviously, we're still facing with the export side for inventory linking. But obviously, we have the dual running of Chief and CDS until March for exports.
And Mitch, I wanted to add on that readiness point, if I may, that there is a comment saying, CDS hasn't been working very well with GVMS. What we've noticed, and we're discussing this with HMRC as well, is that there is a behavioral problem because the departure of goods, for the departure of goods to be reflected on your export declaration, a step is required on GVMS. And at the very beginning, we had issues of linking because GVMS had issues, true. And what we're now noticing is that hauliers are not necessarily listing all the declarations that they're loading on their trucks.
Yeah.
And so when that truck crosses the borders, when they've only listed the first 2 or 3 declarations, those 3 depart, and the other 20 that they're carrying they don't depart because they're not being physically seen at the border. And we've seen a lot of that, which is causing us and our customers a lot more work. So in that readiness of supply chain, we really need a behavioral change in all this, all the people who physically move the goods. And Liam, I know that you keep reporting this back to the policy team.
I do, and also when I'm in fora with other hauliers and truckers, the importance of the GVMS system functioning for the transaction is really important. And actually, I think the GVMS was brought in to address a particular problem, and HMRC in the medium term have to solve this gap in putting all the responsibility for goods actually crossing the border and that evidence within CDS being reliant on the truck driver presenting everything. So there's a gap. There's definitely a gap there. Look, I'm conscious of time, and I do want to get as many questions addressed as possible. Somebody who's remained anonymous said, would your customs agent be able to use your account to pay another customer's charges? What's the safeguard? Well, I guess the safeguard, Emmanuel, is that the agent should only be recording your details on your declarations, but there
is more than that. There is actually more than that. The system is quite clever, and if the agent by mistake used a deferment account that belonged to somebody else, CDS would actually reject that and say this party is not authorized to use this deferment account.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it would not be possible even accidentally to do. And on top of that, because if you're using a prepaid method like CDS Cash, that's actually your money, it's the trader's money. So
Yeah.
again, that's completely protected.
Absolutely protected. And Paul Bostock, a kind of link question is that the dashboard in the section in his cash account, it can see that in the dashboard, the cash account, but it doesn't show the deferment account section. Why would it be missing? Now, it sounds to me like the cash account's set up, but actually the deferment account for CDS may not be set up yet.
That's absolutely right. In which case, I would contact the deferment account people at HMRC to find out what happened to your deferment account and why it's not available. If it's not there, HMRC does not recognize that you have an active deferment account. And Liam, you will remember that there were a lot of deferment accounts that were half set up in the run-up to Brexit by HMRC automatically. And then there was a requirement on the trader to go and get a deferment waiver or, a guarantee waiver or a bank guarantee. And if they didn't do that, that deferment account number was never activated. So that is probably what's happened.
Yeah, and Paul, that probably talks to your other question, Paul, about you've registered for CDS, you've granted authority to your local Chamber Customs team and your usual carrier, but you're struggling to set up the direct debit for your cash account, and your deferment account isn't showing on the government gateway screen. So I think it's probably a payment and an authorization there. And Emmanuel may have alighted on the issue, which is that you theoretically set up a deferment account, but the guarantee waiver isn't necessarily linked there. But you're working with the Chamber Customs team. I'm sure that we can help you to have a look at that from your local chamber point of view, and they can raise a ticket with us if there's something we can do to help you just get those things tied together and to square that circle. We've also had a couple of questions from a variety. A few people have asked the same question about fast parcel operators like FedEx and DHL. And somebody's saying, well, actually, all my chief entries are done by the fast parcel operators. So do I just rely on them to do all this? Do I not need to do anything? Because they've been operating that way on chief for years. Why do I need to do anything? Maybe just accentuate, please, colleagues, why it is that people need to do something with CDS that didn't have to do with chief. Mitch.
I think the main point here is ensuring that they've subscribed for CDS, as in having their government gateway set up in place, making sure that they've registered for CDS through the government website. Of course, the agent that they use currently that currently do their customs declarations on chief will still be able to do the customs declarations on CDS. But it's really important that traders and businesses are ready and they're set up ahead of that transition.
And that's the important point. Unless you register for CDS as a trader, your agent, doesn't matter whether it's a haulier, a customs broker, a customs agent, DHL, FedEx, or any other fast parcel operator, they can't do anything unless you have that registration. Anything
Let me just add one thing, Liam. Let's not forget that when you sign those contracts with fast parcel operator, in the small print, you're signing something that is called a direct representation mandate. And what that means is that, yes, your fast parcel operator or agent is able to represent you, but it also means that you accept to retain 100% of the liability for the information that is sent on that customs declaration. If that information is incorrect, HMRC has all the rights to chase you for clarification, or in worst cases, fines and civil penalties.
Absolutely. So it's important that not only do you have somebody that can move the goods, because frankly, anyone can move goods across the board. We could get you the goods across the border incorrectly very easily. But what we champion is actually getting goods across the border in an HMRC compliant way. I know that there are a number of questions that haven't got to you. Heidi, our colleague, is grabbing those questions, and in the output that we send to the people that have attended here, we will answer as many of those as we can and send you that in a written form. Just conscious that we're heading towards 11 o'clock, and I don't want to keep you from your next meetings. It only remains me to do a couple of things. One is to mention, because if I don't, I'll get punished by my colleagues, that if this wasn't enough, and if you need more information, we do have a one-day Chief to CDS course. The next one, the rest are full. The next one available is the 11th of October, which I know is after the deadline, but it may also be a period when you want to be in a great position to instruct your carriers, your couriers, your hauliers, and your customs agents on what you want to ensure that they directly represent you effectively. So 11 October, ChamberCustoms.co.uk, you can book that course on there. Secondly, to thank Emmanuel and Mitch for so eloquently presenting this information is important. And if between now and the deadline you are struggling, please come to your local chamber team or come directly to us and we'll link you with them so that we can make sure that you are not delayed in your business operations, that the goods that need to come in here arrive and in a compliant way. And if you'd like a demo of our Exabler platform, we'd be very happy to do that too. So thank you for attending. There will be a follow-up email that will come to you on Monday morning, likely, maybe even sooner. And best wishes for the future. But do come to us if you are struggling with any of this. We can help. We've got the skills to help. And I've got a team that are ready to do so. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day as best you can.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.